refresh, this should be live. All right, first time doing this, so I'm just trying to figure a couple things out. Go live. Oh, it is live. Okay, cool. Why does the YouTube always want to do this? I'll play with that later. So, what I'm doing today is going to test out a different way of handling IT candor. Truth is, I haven't done anything since the end of last year, and really it's mainly because busy with work, family life, just other IT things that I need to do. And so I thought about, what do I need to do? What did I like from last year? What didn't I like? What can I change? And that's what I'm going to discuss here for a little bit. Plus, go over a couple things today as like a precursor. So obviously this is going to be a private live stream, mainly for the fact that I want to test it out. Probably going to make some mistakes, but the whole point is to kind of dry run this first one, and then the next one I'm going to do live, obviously. So let's take a quick look at what I want to discuss real fast, and we're going to bring up a notepad, so that should show up. Wow, that looks really weird when you're live streaming. It's like it doesn't know, the whole notepad doesn't work properly. That's okay, doesn't matter. Notepad doesn't have to be perfect. I'll probably work on that later. I wonder why it's like see-through, but it doesn't show properly. Interesting. Play around with that later. Anyways, lessons learned. I think that's always a good thing to review, like lessons learned. The things that I liked about last time was it was just fun to do, right? It was just fun to do content, create things, get messages out there, hopefully educate people, talk about IT things. It's kind of what my job is, but it's also good to get the message out to a wider audience. I think that was kind of fun. What else was nice about it? It was just getting to, when I think about it, getting to kind of just talk about the cybersecurity stuff instead of being like an echo chamber, hopefully get stuff out there. But I don't think I did a good enough job, right? So I think it was fun to do. And unfortunately, that's probably good enough at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be more than that. If it's not fun, then why would you do it? But if we move down to what needs to change. Sorry, throat's a little clogged up in here. Should have brought water. That's something I'll have to fix next time. What needs to change? Well, I think the biggest factor is, more than anything, time, right? So if I take a step back and I say, well, what was the biggest challenge of the first 10 episodes from last year? It was really time. So maybe I explain this in a different context. You have quality, right? And that was the biggest thing. I was trying to probably do quality more than I should have. And I know that sounds bad, but I had to set up the camera, obviously in the back where I would stand over there, right? So the room kind of was full of camera and a light and other things, and then making sure all the batteries are charged, making sure all the settings are right in the camera, the focus, and all that other junk you have to do. Then charging, and then having different audio sources such as a lav mic and all this other headache that really comes in when you sit back and say, okay, I want to shoot this episode. Then to make it even easier, teleprompter. So with the teleprompter, I would have a script, and I'd have to write the script. Now, the script writing was always the easy part, mainly because I kind of knew what I wanted to say, but it didn't allow me to freestyle, free flow, kind of be me. It was more read from this, and that's not always the best approach, ultimately, in IT, right? IT's a collaborative, real-time, fun mess that we all deal with. So we take it one step further. Let's go look at the other part of quality. It was the editing. The editing was just awful. What I mean by awful is, look, I enjoy editing. I thought it was fun. I'm pretty decent at DaVinci Resolve, not a master, but what I would say is it's very time consuming because of the quality level. So you want nice transitions, you want sound effects, you want the audio to sound good, you want the video to sound good, you want to cut scenes and all this other stuff. At the end of the day, none of that matters though, right? That's just a personal preference of how do I want this video to look versus somebody else on the other end says maybe the content's more important. And so when I take time, I have to ask myself, how do I get time back? Because I have work, and I have personal time, family time, and then I was trying to do this in between. And ultimately, what really challenged me was how much time I had to spend in editing. It was just way too much to finally get that video up there when I felt like that was the least fun part. I need to figure out a way around that. So that's what I'm going to do now. It's going to be a live stream. And I'm not going to be streaming. I don't really, I guess I can say this in a different way. I'm not really concerned about the stream itself, meaning, oh, I need all these overlays and all these things. I might, obviously, if people like tuning in, awesome. I think the chat or live chat would be a nice thing to have, ask questions and just discuss random things. So maybe I'll try to find a way to get that up on the screen here. I was messing with it earlier. This is just a first attempt. But the point of it is, this will cut down on the editing, and it's live, so some people can check it live. Then I might have to do minor editing, maybe if I let it, like the starting time, the stream starts in 5 minutes or some junk like that, cut that out, upload it as a VOD, and now I have the episode. And I can kind of do things a bit more live, more natural, as opposed to more like prescriptive, as if I was on the stage presenting, which is kind of how I've treated this up until this point, versus how would I be in a whiteboard situation. So I want to move this into more of a whiteboard situation, which in real life is mistakes. Fine, that's fine. It won't be perfect, but I think that's more important than anything, because it's more real, it's more honest, it's more objective. So with that, that is the changes that are going to come. I'm going to try to make, holy crap, one other thing. I guess the word would be, I wasn't being consistent. That'd be the phrase. Okay, so I'm not going to put that up on the board, but what needs to change? Schedule. Let's put that in there. So I need to have a schedule, and I think that's the biggest challenge. Once you stop, you don't want to start again, and you're like, oh my God, do I really have to do this? It becomes a chore. Then it becomes not fun to do. And so what I want to fix ultimately when I'm talking about this is the schedule. I think having a set schedule for when I do this will be good. So right now I'm going to gun for Wednesdays or Thursdays. Now you have to remember, I'm in the other side of the world, so my Thursday morning is late Wednesday night, U.S. or middle evening, if depending how far in the U.S. you go, all the way to the West Coast, even earlier. And so I need to set it up where it's consistent. So when I come up and do this, I can say, okay, maybe once a week I'm going to try to set this up where I do this. And because I'm not setting up all the equipment, doing all the editing, and doing all this stuff, it really turns out to only be 30, 40, 50 minutes of my time once a week, which I can easily commit to that, as opposed to trying to find all the time to do all the pre-stuff, shoot the video, be happy about it, and then do the post stuff, right? And that's really it. I think those are the things that I want to change more, get more time back, find other ways to improve the quality, and then also fix the scheduling. So that's what I'm going to change with IT Candor, right? And so with that, I would say this new episode of the new year, we'll call it episode 11. What I want to do is this first one, I want to go over some articles that are in the news and just some IT stuff and security stuff that's going on. Just kind of talk through them and give my own opinion, my own feedback. Even if nobody cares, that's fine. I mean, the whole internet is full of opinions that nobody cares about. But maybe somebody else say, hey, that's an interesting idea, interesting concept. Maybe it sparks another round of discussion. But that's what this one's going to be. Next week, something has me pissed. And I think the best way to solve a problem, the best way to work through something is when you're pissed about something. Because, and I mean I'm pissed about it because I just think it's been done incorrectly. I think there's too much going on. Too many people don't really know what the hell they're talking about. And I'm going to correct that once and for all. And I say once and for all, but in IT that means for 3 months until something else changed. I'm going to hit the tier model. And if you don't know what that is, awesome, check back. But I am going to teach people the tier model. And you say, well, I know the tier model. No, you don't. The fact of the matter is, I was actually one of the instructors for APJ in teaching people the tier model. So I know my stuff. And I was trained by some of the best in the tier model at Microsoft before it became a public thing. So remember, this started at Microsoft. So Microsoft people kind of have the leg up on others people. Let me take you on that journey next episode. However, for this one, I'm going to flip over and just kind of do a little web browser thing here. And I have a couple articles I pulled up, stuff that I had interesting in my back pocket that I just kind of wanted to discuss and talk about and go from there, right? And maybe even I need to fix my webcam height, depending on how I sit. If I slouch like a lazy guy, Should I fix my camera? Yeah, what the hell? This is what the point of the live stuff is. I'll be able to just do these little things and adjust it. So let's see if I can make the top, just the top of my webcam a little bit better. Nope, that's not the right button. Is it Alt? There we go. Okay, so if I kind of sit like this and I sit up backwards or I slouch like a lazy person, good, webcam's better. Okay, awesome. So let me take the OneNote because this, now a couple things I'm going to be doing on the stream. I'm going to probably build out a couple different profiles in OBS. The reason is I don't really want to share my full desktop because at times I can have customer information here, customer data pop up. And so I need to really prepare, like if I'm going to bring a window on, I want to double check it on this monitor, bring it over live, and then make sure it's good. I am going to use my, obviously it says personal up here, but I have work profiles built into these. Things like that. If I open up Word, obviously Word is personal and work, so there's stuff in there. So I'm going to always be a little laggy when I bring something over, unless I prep it like this, because I don't want to, obviously show something that shouldn't be there on accident. Now, most of the time, you were never going to see anything confidential from me because, well, the way I handle it will be fine. However, let's take the first one. So this is actually really, really relevant. It was from, technically, my time was this morning I saw this, but it's making its rounds. And as an IT person, or just a security person in general, you need to kind of be aware of the standards and what's going on. And obviously this hasn't been updated in almost 10 years. So this is a really, really big thing to do. It isn't going to be fun. These are never fun. However, I think it's important to plan some time in your day to go through and look at the new NIST change work for cybersecurity. I myself need to have a review of this and see what's different. We're not going to go through all of it together, but I do think it's important as a security person, maybe take your lunchtime, instead of just watching this, I'd rather you do this than watch me. But if you're going to waste your time and watch some other person's video game, playing a video game, look, invest in yourself. Pause this video and go do this instead. So read through what the new NIST is. Look at the draft response. They had numerous comments on the draft version, so that's good that people are commenting on it. And we really need to take a step back. You really need, maybe I'll make this bigger. How does that look? Does that look better? Yeah. On the screen. Hopefully everybody can see this. Obviously, it'd be nice if there was a chat. So, okay. So we go back through this and we say, hey, let's have a look at this. I would say it's worth going through, reading through the new steps and say, okay, let's understand what is in the 2.0. What are people going to be talking about? What are we trying to fix from the 1.0? Obviously, it's 10 years later. And I would say if we rerun the clock, 10 years ago, what was big in that time would really be hypervisors were still really, really big play, and private cloud kind of were still a big play. And starting to look at public cloud services was just a whisper, right? Now, with the dawn of Office 365 and Google for Business, most people don't host their own email server anymore. They just use somebody else's, right? And that's just the way it is. So those cloud services started opening up the door, and then you have AWS take off, then Microsoft did Azure, Google does Google GCP. So all these places now are just like, you want a VM, here you go. You don't have to buy a server. So obviously this is going to, if I had to just take a guess, this is going to have massive changes around the adoption, the approach and understanding of security in more of a cloud or hybrid cloud type environment. Because in reality, the on-premise stuff hasn't changed, doesn't need to change. The same problems are there that have been there that you should know how to fix by now, or just ignore them, right, by leaving server 2003 there. There's a new reference tool. Okay, cool. I'm going to have to check this out. I definitely want to look at this new reference tool. It offers a searchable catalog. I think that's awesome to really take note of. References, that's always important. I definitely want references, because it's good to understand where did this come from, or why is this thing. Consult the privacy tool. Nice. There's a privacy tool in there. Awesome. So obviously there's a lot to do here. I would assume you're going to have to set yourself time aside to really, really dive through this and look at this as well. Let's look at some of the facts. So it was version 1.0. Yes, that's what everybody knows about, in 13 languages. That's good. Okay, so people, so look, man, this is what I would do. If you speak another language, go ahead and volunteer to do this, and then post it on your LinkedIn that you were one of the translators who helped translate the NIST 2.0 into your local language. And then put that on your LinkedIn, and this is a good way to get credit out there, to show people that you are understanding and you're doing this stuff if you have some time. Obviously, I'm American, and we only speak one language, which is barely English in most situations. However, if you do speak another language, do it. It really helps out the community. And, this would obviously help out my customers, because I was just on a Japanese project, and a lot of times my architect that I was working with would do the translations. It'd be nice to speak multiple languages, but I'm in this region of the world. I'm moving on to another project. It's another Japanese project. I was in a Thailand project. So it doesn't matter. Like, I'd be screwed either way. I wouldn't be able to speak all the languages of this region. But the point is, look, contribute. Find out how you can volunteer. Look into this. And they have, let's go back up. Actually, I want to take a quick look. Okay, so if you're new, can learn from user access success, select an interesting topic, and some quick start guides. Okay, awesome. So this is what I'm going to go through myself over the next week. Maybe I'll have a follow-up of this and talk about what was in here, looking at the new tools and stuff, looking at how I can find this information. The reason I need to be aware of it is I'm going to eventually walk into a customer that says, hey, we've started adopting the NIST 2.0 or the Microsoft Azure security solutions are going to add some of the recommendations from here into Sentinel, into Azure, into Defender products, into AWS security products. So the other big players in the world are going to build this into their products. And obviously I need to be aware of it for myself, because I have customers who are going to ask me about it. So we could go on this journey together. That's what my plan is. I'm going to take some time to look through this. I recommend you as well. If you're brand new, start here. But honestly, I'm going to start here and treat it like I don't know any of this. I like to kind of start from scratch every time as a good refresher. Looking at the reference tool looks awesome. And I want to definitely check out the privacy reference tool as well. What are they doing for privacy in this? I think that's an important thing to be aware of. Okay, cool. So that's what I was saying. What I plan to do a little different on this channel is kind of go through some of these interesting articles, comment on them, hopefully not get fired. Hey, look, equal opportunity basher. I work at Microsoft. If something pops up, I think it's fair to treat everybody equal, right? This one's older. I never got around to this, obviously. It was back early February, and I thought about starting this early February, but personal things kicked up, and I didn't have time to do this. I had some work stuff I really needed to finish up and improve upon. So now I'm back with this, and this was a very interesting one. Now, one thing I'm going to have to say every single time, the right question to think about when I'm reading this, and I'm going to pick on Heather here. Hey, Heather and Kathleen. They are going to be writing this from their perspective. I don't know if they are super security geniuses like myself. I think they are going to be given information. They write specific articles. I'd have to research them to see, are they only writing IT articles, or do they write about anything, which means their knowledge of the subject would be very limited. I'm assuming most cases that is going to be really it. They're going to fact check, have fact checkers for them, and write. Which means they probably don't have a real security background such as myself. So that's the first thing I always look at when you see these articles. I take it as somebody whispering it to me, and I'm going to make my own conclusions. Now, I would obviously want to do, if I really, really needed to dive in, I would hit multiple articles. But even then, the problem is we have a very bad problem in media. One person repeats the other person, so you really don't have the evidence of where this started. And I'm a security professional, which means I need evidence, meaning I need the log file said that this endpoint was accessed by this account at this time. I need evidence. Right? Facts. And so these are fun articles to go through because it gets your brain thinking of, as a cybersecurity professional, could this happen to me? Is this a potential thing that could happen to me? And threat model yourself. Don't take their scenario. Don't say, oh, well, it happened exactly like this and it's going to happen for me. No, you should threat model your own processes and your own process and how to improve your process so a similar situation doesn't come to your doorstep, because eventually it will. I think this is awesome, meaning awesome from a perspective of look at the amount of effort hackers are putting in, which means you need to be putting in equal effort to stop this. They're leveling up their game. So respect. I respect how much time and effort they put in to pull this off. How true it is, how factual the story is, whatever happens, we're going to go through it a little bit. So I read through this a while ago. Obviously, I want to go through newer ones I've never read. But the gist of it is, and let's make sure this is legible for everybody. Maybe I just hold control and zoom in a little bit, one more level. Yeah, I think everybody can read that. Okay. He was duped into a video call where he saw several other members of staff, but whom were in deepfake recreations from Hong Kong. So, Hong Kong police said. Okay, cool. So what they're saying is he joined a call. He said, "Hey, I might know these people, but I know them, but I don't know them. So I've seen their photo. Maybe I don't work with them. So obviously, it's always going to be I know who this person is. I'm sure somebody had joined a call with me before, and they were like, "Oh, this is meeting Joel for the first time. I've seen his photo. I've seen his picture. I kind of know who he is. Maybe he did it on my mannerism, right? A lot of times I wear a hat, right, when I'm just relaxing internally versus like a customer. So with you guys, I'm just chilling with a hat. Obviously, my hair needs to grow back, and then I just relax and I use like some nerd shirt that I'm happy with versus a polo or something buttoned up that looks a little nicer. So obviously, there's the mannerism that people won't know how you act and how you talk and how you interact on a call. So yeah, you're going to be able to trick people with deepfakes. They're getting very good. And interesting enough, OpenAI released Sora just recently, and that thing was just freaking impressive what you can do with creating video now. So if you have enough video of a person, yes, I think the deepfake is definitely doable, right? Look, he said he had workers had grown suspicious of what goes on. They did a video call to put its doubts. So look, the person probably said, I don't know if this is legit. I don't know if this is real. Let's have a video call, which is actually a good process. I'm not saying the process was bad. I'm not saying the process it failed. I'm saying the process itself probably needs to evolve, because now it's like, well, I have a video call, so let me check who it is. And this is a good thing, right? Meaning you actually call up the person and say, let me make sure everything's legit. Let me think on the up and up. He believed everyone else was the real, and then did a transfer of the money. Okay. Now, interesting. Okay, let's have a little look here. 8 stolen credit cards, blah, blah, blah. At least 20 occasions AI deepfakes has been done. So this is really probably the most notable one, because they went after a fake CFOs. Wow, this is really good stuff. And obviously, we just had the Taylor Swift AI stuff pop up. Okay, I'm not going to read about that. So what I would say is typical process was always been, we try to educate people who are not IT. So we think from their perspective first. What am I doing in their shoes? When we say, Mr. Chan, you are allowed to transfer X amount of money without major approval, right? And after a certain amount, you need approval. So if it's a normal day, like I might use $10 here, $20 here, my bank's going to be okay with it. If I try to go and say, oh, I'm going to transfer 10,000, the bank's going to ask a lot of questions, make me jump through hoops because it's not normal. That is actually a good thing. Okay, that's how I see it. In companies, we see the number 25 million, but it could be an average day for them. It could be this month we are going to we got to pay our bills. It's 10 million. We got to acquire this new company. And so when we really go through these different numbers, the number looks high to us sometimes, but we really have to take a look at how this number is in their perspective. This might be a semi-large number, but not the largest number. So you first have to figure out what is your business, what do you transfer, and what would those limits be? What is the right number that your CFO is doing on a regular basis? Because you can't say, well, for every dollar I need approval. It's never going to work, right? So they have their process, and I assume he did the right thing. He said, something doesn't feel right. What's a gut check? What doesn't feel right? And that is, once again, what we want to teach end users from a security perspective. If you're not sure, verify. We always say trust but verify. That's a common phrase in IT. What do we do about this? We would say call them. Now, what failed this person was the call itself. How do we say we trust it? Look, and I don't know how the call works, but, I talked about this in a previous episode of mine where I said you need to have secure communication, right? And so a lot of people say, well, he was able to, I called a person on Teams, I called a person on Zoom or Google, whatever the hell their thing is. I called somebody on a system that my company gave me. So I'm assuming this is a trustworthy system to make phone calls on. And I called the other person. Now, here's the question. Was he pulled into the conference? Or did he call somebody? See, that's where my spider senses go off, saying, oh, that would be I would say, hey, we'll pull you into a call. Let's talk about this. So you're helping pad their fears by saying, oh, I'm willing to help you through this situation, right? And so I'm assuming he was probably pulled into the call, if I'm thinking through this, to get to the next level of getting him to transfer the money. Just thinking out loud here, if I was to do this, what would I do? I would want to bring the person into the call so they would ask less questions. Maybe he would really click on, I don't know, see other people's accounts and try to call them directly. I would say, well, we're already in a call. Let's bring you in. They bring him in, and he sees all these people, and he says, oh, okay, cool. This is legit. His fears go down, and then he does what he was asked to do, which is transfer $25 million. Now, where did this fail? How would I fix this system? Just looking at it. First off, one person shouldn't be allowed to transfer money with verbal. No, at the end of the day, when it comes to a business, okay? If it's a personal person and I have a bank account, it's just my bank account. I have nobody else to go up against, right? I mean, my wife could be on it, kids could be on it, whatever. My point is, there's nobody else involved with that. If I want to send $1 million to somebody and I choose to do it and I go through the approval process, it's done. That's it. It's just me. In a company, in a business, though, I think that is not a good example, not a good model, not a good example, because one person shouldn't have the authority to transfer the money, especially this amount, because obviously he went to get approval saying, hey, is this legit? So if it was me, I would say, let's assume he needs to transfer this money. How does that process work today? Is it the person logs directly into the bank account and does the transfer? Or is it a B2B where they send the request off to the bank and then the bank processes the transfer? So there's a lot of different ways you have to understand, how does this process build today? How does it work? And that'd be my first thing to do. I do a full regression of what does this process look like and where can I cut out areas of risk? Where can I improve it? If it was me, even if those people join a call, I would require probably multiple approvals, meaning, and with all multi-factor challenges. So, maybe even these people get hard tokens, meaning YubiKey type. My YubiKey somewhere, where the hell is it? It's inside this thing. So maybe if it was me, anybody who's allowed to do funds transfer has to have a YubiKey. So even if I get on that phone call and I say, hey, by the way, I am really Deepfake Joel, you're allowed to send this money. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to send you the request. And then I get the request and I actually have to go in and do this. So when the real Joel gets this request, he's going to say, what the hell is this? I didn't know about this. What are we talking about? And they're going to find out that this isn't legit. So the process really needs to be if anybody tells me they need to transfer $25 million right now, unless it's a ransom for somebody, you know you're going to be doing a big transfer and there's a better system in place. So if it was me, I would want to have everybody who needs to approve the transfer has to sign in, be authenticated, be challenged a second time. Even if you just did multi-factor to go check your email, let's assume you did that in the morning and it's been 1 hour. Every time you go to do a transfer, it is a brand new token, cycle, fresh, everything, re-authenticated, re-verified. And as your conditional access can actually help with this stuff. So something to look into is your conditional access policies can require mandatory every time. That's something I would be very interested in looking into with banks and stuff. Can you force multi-factor and trusting and say, hey, 2 people need to approve this physically, not just a phone call and say, hey, it's good, move on. That's how I would solve this one. Review the process and figure out a way to require some physical authorization that the hackers are not going to have easy access to. And then the other person would have said, hey, I didn't ask to do this. What the hell are you talking about? They would have called each other and said, yeah, I don't know what's going on. And there's a good chance. Now, if they would have deepfaked the other guy and just, look, all hell breaks loose, yeah, there's always a way around the system. But I would have made this way more difficult with needing multiple approvals for the money to transfer, not just a verbal approval over a phone call at the end of the day. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. This one's from this morning. I found this very, very funny. This is going to be my Microsoft rant. So if anybody doesn't like it, go ahead and downvote. Musk tweets Satya about Windows 11 demands for a Microsoft account. Okay. So look, let me make this a little bigger. Oh, come on, search. Stop that. Ugh. Oh my God, just make a web page without 400 freaking links and ads, swear to God. No wonder why people block everything. Yeah, I should. Actually, is my blocker on? I'll fix that later. Okay, so look, Musk, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call Elon to the mat. You're being hypocritical. And I said it. Let me give an example here. You said I bought a new computer, okay? If you buy a new iPhone, or you go buy a new Android phone, What happens? Hmm? Well, you're required to have a Google account on an Android phone. You're required to have an Apple iCloud account on an Apple phone. So I think people like to pick at Microsoft saying, well, why does Microsoft need a local account? Here's the deal. Everybody's doing it. Whether it's good or bad, my point is people like to complain about something, but not complain about the other something. And I call that that's hypocritical. That's what the point is. People will easily buy a new Android phone, set it up, sign in with Google, and shut the hell up. Not complain about it. Or people will buy an iPhone, set it all up, not complain about it, and shut the hell up. Because it's iCloud, who cares, right? But when it comes to the Windows one, I think sometimes they just have a bad rap where it's like, oh, Microsoft made me use an account. Well, everybody else is making you use an account. So what I would say here is this. Maybe this is the fair thing to say. One, today, Microsoft you can still use an account, a local account with Microsoft. Yes, it's painful. I actually had to get into a fight with the Windows VM I had because I actually had to use a local account for a reason. Yes, I was pissed. So I understand the frustration. However, I think it's hypocritical that if you don't want Windows to use it, do you want iPhone to do it? Do you want Android phone to do it? You need to hold all the vendors to the fire. So I'd expect a tweet to send a tweet to, who is it today? Tim Cook asking why iPhone needs one. And then who's the Alphabet guy today? I don't even remember who owns the Googles or Alphabet or Android. Whoever the Android manager is, I could look it up real fast. Send that guy a message and say, hey, you need to make Android not sign in with Gmail. If both those companies say we're not going to require that anymore, then you win. But you can't just go after one. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. Not just because I work at Microsoft. I'm saying every one of these companies need to be treated equally, not just saying, oh, Microsoft forces me to log in with it. Well, technically, there's still a way to do it. iPhone and Android, you don't get a way to do it. So, barking up the wrong tree here, buddy. That'd be my thing. Now, are you going to complain about a Microsoft account? Look, people were always going to say everybody's taking everybody's data. Everybody's taking everybody's data. I would say, yes, there's metadata being taken by every company on the planet. Amazon, Google, everybody's snacking up data. Hell, look at the 23andMe, that hack. Should bring that article up. 23andMe hack. Look at that. People's DNA data is now out there. So the question is, you have to trust somebody with your data. That's it. You don't have a choice in the matter. I mean, that's go live in a cave. You have to trust somebody with your data. So my question would be, how much do you trust Microsoft with your data to do the right thing? How much do you trust Apple? How much do you trust Google? And you pick your products based on that. If you don't think that the Microsoft Windows is trustworthy enough, and you think a local account's going to change any of that, that's, well, one, ridiculous. And two, I would say, look, I'm going to say, look, I hope Microsoft does the best job that they do because they publicly put it out there. Microsoft publicly puts it out there. And I'm an employee at Microsoft, but my point is I think it's right to say I feel they do the right thing for what access I have and what I know. I feel they stand by their statements. Why do you think I think Microsoft has some of the best ethical AI statements out there, which is going to take us into the next article. And my point is I would say ask the question of Apple and Google and say, hey, guys, why do I have to use a local account on there? It's the same damn thing. And I'll be frank with you, as much as people use their mobile phone, there's a lot of data on this bad boy. A lot of data on it. So I expect a tweet from you, Mr. Elon Musk, to Apple and Google asking why your iPhone or Android phone has to have a account when you set it up. Be fair. That's all I'm asking. Now, if you can get all three companies to change, good on you. But at least Microsoft, you still can have a local account. It's just very, very difficult. The other two, iPhone and Android, you can't. So you need to really, really beg them to add that ability into them. Last topic. Let's go to the last one I wanted to hit, and then we're going to move on. This one is a little brutal, okay? This one has me... Oh, I don't even know where to start with this one. So, if you're not aware, I have to do a lot of AI stuff lately. Internally, I've been trying to teach some people the Microsoft 365 and how prompting works to get quality responses. I'm also doing a lot with Security Copilot and how that's going to transform and benefit SOC, especially the junior analyst. Like, how can we get these junior analysts using prompting and looking through mounds and mounds of data, security logs, and ask it questions. How can we talk to our security data? How can I have a conversation with the security data and logging and maybe get some new results that I never thought of? So in terms of AI, in terms of prompting, I've been doing my own threat modeling, my own research, my own reading, my own studying, my own security approach to how I want to handle AI security. Okay. And remember, there's multiple levels of AI. There's always going to be these public AIs, and then there'll also be private AIs that people will never see inside of companies, right? So this is a two-pronged approach. However, this is bad, and I can speak from a little bit of experience why this is troubling. So I'm not going to go into the images. The main thing to take away from this article is Google suspended it. Why do you suspend something? Because it's a real problem. So what that tells me is what it was doing was wrong. Otherwise, you wouldn't have pulled it. That's the first smoking gun here. You can't argue that point. Otherwise, it would still be working. Now, I don't get into this whole woke debate stuff. I try to steer far from that because it's its own landmine. And having seen real landmines, never mind, that's a different conversation for another day. The main thing is Google says they're going to fix it. And they were complaining about image generation on Thursday. The company sent a statement to the insider that it was pausing it, was making, while it made changes. Okay, cool. Social media users complained about Gemini was producing images of people in historical inaccurate context. So I'll just scroll down and say, look, we all know the Pope today is white. All right, and this is it. And I would say that's the simplest example. So there's one thing when you have creative liberty, and I'm always going to say people have creative liberty to create things differently, especially when they take a story and say, hey, I want to create this story a different way. A really good example is Marvel's What If. So Marvel What If says, oh, well, we take that character that we know. What if, Steve Rogers didn't get the serum, but Peggy Carter got the super soldier serum? And so it's another way to tell the story, but I think that is from an artistic story perspective. And I think you have to be careful when you talk about AI, because from an AI perspective, a lot of times people are looking for factual information. And so if I wrote a prompt, and I'm going to use this quite often when I talk about prompting, if I'm going to write a prompt and I say, hey, I want a prompt of something accurate. Actually, I got a good damn example. Okay, cool. See this? This is an AE86. Or Hachiroku, and it is a 1983 to 87 Toyota Corolla. Now, I am a Wikipedia on this car. I know so much about this car. I actually own the car still. I actually have one. And so I know all the intricate details of this car. I know exactly what it looks like. Now, I used Microsoft Designer, and I said, draw me one of these cars drifting in a mountain pass. It did okay. It wasn't perfect. The reason it wasn't perfect is really, you can probably tell here between, this is weird trying to do left and right on a webcam like this. The grill between these are retractable headlights. So the grill between the headlights, that was funny looking. The grill between the headlights, when they retract up, there's different types of grills based on the car from what country it was from, right? However, so it goes bumper, grill, and the headlights got like this front part. So the headlights come up, and then the bumper is above the grill, and it kind of goes upward. It was drawing it without the grill. So it was like bumper and then the hood that goes straight up. Now, from that perspective, there was actually the Honda Accord was that design. It didn't have a grill. It went straight from bumper to the hood. The whole rant here is the fact that when I asked it to draw something, I had an expectation of what it was going to give back to me already. So I had the knowledge to know, is this accurate or not? This is the problem with this is if I was a child or I was trying to learn something, which is the whole point of having the internet at people's fingertips is to try to better themselves, I think, learn. Yes, there are a lot of trash on the internet, more and more trash than there needs to be. That's a different story. But my point is I think that people still want to use it to learn. And if I said, draw me a picture of the Pope, this is just inaccurate. Ultimately, it's a lie. And then once you've busted the truth, will anybody else, will you be able to trust it again? That's really, and I'm coming from a security perspective. Let's just ask the question from a security perspective. Um, I come into security, and security, the first question we have to ask is trust. Trust, trust, trust. And so this kind of bothers me, and I know this sounds really bad. How is Google going to fix this? And I don't think they can easily. That's just my opinion of it. Do they have to retrain the model? Depends. That's the big question. Depends. Do they have to retrain the model? Probably not. However, I have to call some people to the mat because this wasn't an AI problem. This was a human problem. And I personally think the people that did this should be held accountable in a very, very, very bad way. You can't do this. It's not about you. It's not about your feelings. It's about what the AI comes up with. And as soon as you start twisting it to fit any narrative, doesn't matter any person on this planet, the system's broke. And look, I can tell this from facts. So let me give a really good example. We have something called Security Copilot. I brought that up earlier. I've been doing a lot with it because part of my goal is going to be teaching other Microsoft people in this region about Security Copilot, then working with customers to get the most out of it, because talking to your data just isn't normal for a lot of us security people. And I even have to shift my brain of, well, how can I use this solution effectively within SOCs? It's a different mindset. And so I've done some of the boot camp and internal training, so people aren't going to see this publicly, but we've had to adjust the UI, the web page, the portal page. We've had to make changes to it based on customer feedback. One of the biggest changes and very common feedback was the customers needed to know how it got the answer that it got. So if I said, tell me the top high security alerts today or in the past 24 hours, that would go back and look at the data, and it would search it, and it would say, okay, here are the incidents and the alerts, and we found this information from your alerts database table, as an example. So it kind of tells you what data it looked at or how it kind of came to be. It just didn't say out of the thin air and say, I don't know, 4 sounds like a good number, right? And I think that's what it needs. Whenever you go and do a search, like the Bing chat one, it needs to put the links and the references to where it came up with its answer. Whether the answer is right, accurate, or not, you need references there. And I think that's what is lacking from at least the image creation stuff. Like that one didn't work for me when I said create my AA86. It didn't work for me. And I was like, well, how do I tell this thing this doesn't look right? You know what I'm saying? However, I'm not going to dive into the Google one. Obviously, what was done to it was wrong, but that was done by a person. I'm not going to bullshit you. This is wrong. It was done by a person, and it had to be intentional. That's going to be my thing. This doesn't. It's not like, oh, we're going to blame it on the algorithm. A human being put that code into the solution. And a human being is going to have to fix it, obviously. Right? You don't have AI completely yet. My point is, though, the people fixing it, are they the same people that created the problem? That's what I always worry about. I always ask the question, right? You can't be the crime lord boss and the judge and the lawyer. You know what I mean? You can't be both. If you're the developer who caused this problem, are you obviously feel strongly about what you did. Are you the right person to fix the problem? And I'm going to say this question in general for anybody on this planet. If I'm not happy about something, you're going to ask me to fix it. I'm probably going to do a half-assed job of it because I'm like, I'm like a child. Everybody's going to be a little child and throw a little hissy fit that, oh, but you hurt my baby. This is mine. I did this. Okay, look, stop it. This isn't yours, number one. It's the first problem. It belongs to people. Just because you wrote the code, you put it out there publicly, the public opinion wins. Number one. Number two, you got to stop this shit. You are literally going to burn down the goodwill and the trust that people are trying to build into this technology. And it's not, look, it's going to have to get a little worse. I guess I just don't want to say that. I guess ultimately, and I'm going to finish this up. Ultimately, I feel like it's gonna get way worse. Look, I'll be honest with you. I know AI is gonna be hell. From a security professional perspective, we've got our work cut out for us, and all these people on LinkedIn who are allowed to edit their title and put AI security expert are so full of crap. Yes, you know who you are. You can put your own title up there. You're full of crap. Look, the storm hasn't hit yet. All right, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And honestly, I feel bad for a lot of companies because the hackers are going to get the tools and start using them before companies are able to get the tools to defend themselves. Ultimately, it's going to take a little, and it's going to cost money. It's not going to be cheap. This AI stuff costs a lot of money in GPU and compute. And so my advice to everybody when it comes to this AI stuff is, look, you've got to find the right balance of it. You need to start looking at it. You need to start using it. It's not going away. It's not going to get better today, but it doesn't mean you ignore it. I think that's the answer to this. You can't ignore it. From a security perspective, start looking at all the risks, looking at all the threats, looking at all the problems with it. It's not fun. I've finished up 2 books already. One of them was by Rod Trent. What book did I read? AI Security by Rod Trent. I need to look it up. It was a good book. A lot of it, some of it is theory in terms of hacking. Build your own language model from an IT perspective. Sign up for Azure, OpenAI. Try some of these things, build it up, think about how you can get into it and mess with the model. That's what I want to leave everybody with. You don't want to wait to be behind. You don't have to be an AI expert, an AI developer. You don't have to have mounds of data to run your own model and then attack it. That's not what you need to do to be a security professional with AI. You just need to understand the pieces of how AI works and how you would protect, attack, and monitor the different flow of usage of AI. That's interesting. Okay, cool. Well, I'm not planning to do much else. I'm going to end this today. This is my real first live stream, which is going to be turned into a VOD, which I'll edit very little and then upload. I'm going to be super lazy with the thumbnail as well. That's going to be awesome. But my plan is by next Wednesday, maybe Thursday. I think I'm going to try to stick to Wednesdays. Wednesday, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over the tier model next week. I'm going to teach people, and if I can't do it in a short enough time, I'll make it a 2-parter. Then everybody wins. So with that, I thank everybody for checking out. This is probably longer than it should be. Doesn't matter because it's going to be live next time. But I'm going to turn it into a VOD. And with that, I thank everybody for your time. Have a good day. Read the NIST stuff. Big things are coming, and don't be scared of AI.